Hello everyone and welcome back to the world of Gran Turismo 7. Today we're going to be going for the International B license. So without much more to be said, let's just go straight into it. So the first challenge in International B takes us to Willow Springs, and all we have to do is manage this kind of sweeping right-hander. So it's generally not a terribly difficult corner, but we're not in a particularly stable car, and we just had a little moment there. I won't lie, this is actually the third attempt, but we do finally make it to the line and get silver, but of course we want to go for the gold, so we go again, and we will have another crack at it. We did eventually get gold on the run you are seeing now. It did take around about 10 minutes to get gold on this one, so quite a while to just get this one corner right, but yeah, it wasn't terribly difficult once you get the kind of line and technique down, and we get gold with a 17.489, and that's gold by a small margin, so that means we can move on to the next one. So here we go then. We have a Ferrari this time, and the course is the Daytona Road course, and we have to deal with the chicken on the back straight. So we run a little bit deep on entry, and the line through it is a bit compromised. Because of that, could have carried a bit more speed. But anyway, we cross the line. This will be a decent benchmark. It's a 15.866. We need a 15.3 to get gold, so we have a benchmark now, and we are eventually able to improve on that benchmark, and it didn't even take us that long overall to get gold on this license test. Probably took me less than 5 minutes, so this one was much easier. You see we took a big cut there of the first part of the chicane. We didn't really get in trouble for it, so you can ignore track limits to a certain extent there. We get 15.260 and we get it within the gold by 400ths. The next test takes us to the only remaining good part of Fuji Speedway after they ruin the final sector, and we are driving a Lexus RCF. So let's see how this one goes. Somehow on this one, despite having quite a few corners to navigate, we did manage to at least complete the run on the first attempt, so that was helpful, but it was not a good run. As you can see, we almost went off the road there through the right-hander, and in this left-hander probably slowed down a little bit more than what we had to. Could have carried some more speed through there, and then this right-hander, I never know what the correct line through there is. It's a very awkward part, and that's sort of where the track starts going downhill. But anyway, we get a 39.139, which is bronze. So after that first run, it was clear that there was a lot of time to find, and it took me quite a while to actually find enough time and to improve enough to get gold. It actually took me more than half an hour of trying to get this one. But nonetheless, we actually did eventually do it, and eventually got the gold. And this is the run where we managed that, almost drifting slightly through the long right-hander. And yeah, later on the brakes into this section, just trying to carry as much speed as possible without getting the understeer. And it's a very sort of fine balancing act, moving across to the left, so this corner's not quite as sharp, otherwise the car will slide and you'll lose momentum. And we do a 37.686, and that is gold by just over a tenth. On to the next test then, and we have a Nissan GTR in Tokyo, the Tokyo Expressway. So this one, I guess technically a street circuit, but I guess sort of more flowing in its design. So a very tricky combination. Because you have these flowing corners with absolutely no room for error. So here we go, huge slide into the left-hander. This was a few attempts in, by the way, before we managed to complete a run for the first time. But we do eventually do so and come across the line 2 set of time. That is the 32.760, so a little way off the gold time. So we need to go again. and try to be a little bit faster. We actually need to improve by quite a lot. We need to do a 31.2, and I thought this was going to be one that was going to take forever, but we did actually manage to set the goal time around about 10 minutes later, so it wasn't actually too bad in the end. It didn't take as long as I expected, and you can see I'm actually behind my current Ghost until this last little S-bend of 2 corners, and then we get ahead. So yeah, there's definitely still even more room for improvement on top of this, and we only just get it. A 31.196 gets us just in by 4 thousandths of a second. Now we move on to International B5. Oh boy, it's another rally one. Well, let's see how this goes then. This is our first attempt at the run, and yes, we have to get it sideways, most likely to generate some speed in this one. I think the trouble with rally is not only am I not very good at it, I don't know the circuits either, so it is always going to be more challenging for that reason, whereas most of the road circuits in Gran Turismo I know very, very well, or at least am familiar with in some way or another. The rally circuits I have no clue. But anyway, we do get a clean run in on our first attempt, but it's not even good enough to qualify for bronze. A couple of attempts later, we do actually get a bronze time to our name, and it is a significant improvement, more than a second faster than our previous attempt, but we're still 3.5 seconds off gold. On the very next attempt we do find an additional half a second, but we're still nowhere near silver, let alone gold. Another chunk of improvement a few minutes later gets us to a 37.47, but our rate of improvement is slowing dramatically, which is very concerning at this point. Flash forward a few more minutes and we improved to a 37.341, but that was a very small improvement. I'm starting to hit the ceiling of my abilities, I think. However, some hope was restored when almost half an hour later we suddenly broke into the 36s with a 36.957, so we're knocking on the door of a silver time now. So that is a mega improvement on our previous best. And that restored hope was put to good use, as just a few minutes later we managed to put in an actual silver run and finally improve to the next tier of trophy. And I've started at this point to develop a little bit of a technique to driving this section of the circuit, and it's very tricky, honestly, to navigate all this and get all the lines right, but I didn't know to begin with that you could just cut the corners completely, so that is something I've been changing up as I've been going through to find out exactly what the right lines are to take, and as I've been getting better and better at that, we finally grab silver by 15 thousandths of a second, so not much in it. Unfortunately though, it would take us almost an hour to improve again, and we only improved by 5 thousandths of a second, so you can see now I'm really struggling to do any better than what I have already. Around about 10 minutes later, we improved by just over 2 tenths to a 35.557, but we are still just over 3/4 of a second away from gold. But despite trying for another 3 hours that day, I wasn't able to make any further improvements to the time, and after almost 300 kilometers of driving, we are still stuck with silver. Undeterred, I returned to the challenge a few days later, and relatively quickly managed to find some improvement. I've got the demo lap as the Ghost car now, which has also helped a little bit, but we improved to a 35.515, so we improved by a few hundredths of a second there. Just over an hour later, we managed to find a little bit more improvement, and we break into the 35.4s for the first time with a 486 to our name now. You know, my tenacity surprises me sometimes. Another 15 minutes down the sink, and we improve by a few more hundredths and get a 35.462. And this kind of pattern basically continues with a few more hundredths found. About 20 minutes later we break into the 35.3s with a 392. But after another 15 minutes, something changed, and we managed to put in a run that really got me excited at the time. So here we go. I'm going to show you the whole thing so you can see the improvements that we are making as we go through. So here we go then. This point here pretty much is where the hard part of the lap starts. The first few corners are fairly inconsequential at this point. So chuck it into the left-hander and try and take as late an apex there as possible. Same here with the right-hander. We hit the apex way too early there, slowed us up on the exit, and that really compromised the final corner as well. But overall, it was a pretty good run versus what we'd been doing previously, and we get a 35.204, almost 2/10 of improvement, and that made me very, very happy. And that was the end of day 2. 242.8 kilometers of driving later. We had improved our day 1 time by just over 3.5 tenths, and we sit just over 4 tenths away from the gold time. Or at least that's what I thought, but I couldn't resist coming back for another go, and it was worth it. We improved and finally break into the ones with a 35.184. And that wasn't the end of it either, because half an hour later we improve again, and we are finally within 3.5 tenths of the gold time. However, not every run was quite as successful as you'll see on this one. On more than a few occasions we didn't even make it to the first corner, and the reason why is that. Back on track, our next improvement would come over an hour later, and we only improved by less than 0.02 of a second. So I mentioned hitting the ceiling of what we can do, and now we're really starting to do that. And that was the end of day 2, part 2. Another 307.3 kilometers driven, and an improvement of just under 0.08 of a second. Still hopeful that gold was possible, I came back the next day to try again, but I only managed to make one improvement, but it was into the O's with a 35.045. Day 3 in the books, another 155.7 kilometers of driving, and we sit just 2.5 tenths away from the gold time. Or shall I say day 3 part 1. We tried again later on, another 263.3 kilometers of driving, and no improvements were found. You know what, let's take a break from watching me drive myself insane doing the same challenge over and 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 over again, and spin some of these roulette tickets we keep getting from the daily marathons. They're both 3 stars, so let's see if we can get anything good from these. So spinning the first one now, and we'll see what we get. It's going to be the car, which I know from before, that's a Renault Megane. But it is the safety car version, so that is cool. Not sure if I have a safety... Oh yeah, I got the BMW safety car. But yeah, now we have the Renault Megane safety car as well, so that is awesome. I do like having these safety cars in the game. It's quite cool to have those more, just funny and unusual options. But anyway, we have a second 3-star roulette ticket, so let's spin this one as well. I doubt this one will be quite as lucky, but we will see as we spin around and around and around. Once again, there is a car on offer, but we're not going to get it this time. Instead, we get a small pile of coins. I think, is that the 5,000 pile? Yes, it is. Alrighty. Back to driving myself insane. So, we move on to the 4th day of trying then. And let's hope that this day can go a little better. But it still seems like very much a long shot to get gold in this. But we keep finding these little bits of improvements, and there's just small bits of me hoping that we can, maybe if we find enough hundreds here and there over enough hours and hours, maybe we can just chip our way, go closer and closer, and eventually get the gold. But yeah, it's getting harder and harder to find those couple of hundredths of a second here and there. But anyway, it was around this time I noticed, if you look in the bottom left, there is something a little strange. We are on comfort soft tires. Usually on dirt you have dirt tires, but unfortunately we were not given those. And at this point the game had a little bit of an issue and booted us out of the event. So yeah, I don't know what happened there, As it turns out, the game was doing an update, and the update was to fix that issue of being on comfort soft tyres and to put you on the correct dirt tyres. So all of this time, I've been trying over and over to do this license test on the comfort soft tyres, not knowing that it's meant to be on dirt tyres. I didn't even notice to begin with. I only noticed on, I don't know, maybe day 3 I might have noticed it, but yeah, I thought maybe they just did that to make it harder. I don't know, but yeah, I'd seen, like, you know, my friends at least had done it, people have done it, so I thought must have been possible, and it probably is if you're good enough, but I don't know. That was a little frustrating. And yeah, here's me just trying to figure out what on earth is actually going on at this point. But anyway, after this though, the dirt tires were fitted to the car, so let's see what difference they can make. By the way, we drove 210.6 kilometers on day 4 before the game kicked us out. Oh yeah, and just to prove how crazy my dedication to trying to get gold in this license test was on the comfort soft tires before we go and do it super easy on dirt tires now, I have driven, in total, I did the maths, 1,478.8 kilometers on the comfort soft tires. In total, in Gran Turismo, I've driven 5,301.33 kilometers, as you can see on the statistics screen here. That means over 1/4 of our total mileage in Gran Turismo was that license test. Just let that sink in. My goodness. Okay then, so here we go. On the correct tyres finally. Let's see if we can do this. This is attempt number 2 on the dirt tyres. I had a trial run just to see what the grip was like. I got silver straight away, so by that logic we should be able to get gold relatively easily, to be honest. So let's see as we go into this tricky left-hander. Not getting through there that well, but because we have the better tyres, we're still doing a lot better than we ever were before. And as we bring it around the final left-hander, we are going to do it with ease. It's a 34.558, and with a fairly lackluster run, we absolutely smashed the times we were doing a few days ago. And I've actually dug up a few statistics about how far we've driven and what that would be in real-world terms. We drove in total, including those last couple of runs on the dirt tyres, a total of 1,482.7 kilometers, which is around about half the distance of the Stuart Highway, which runs from Adelaide to Darwin. Or for a more American reference, if you like, it is more than a third of Route 66. In the UK, you couldn't even drive that far from point to point. If you started in London, you could drive to somewhere like Monaco or Barcelona. And since I've covered 3 continents, I might as well do the rest. You could travel from Shanghai to Beijing and still not cover that distance. You could also travel more than a quarter of the length of the Amazon River. Or in Africa, you could go from Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso to Freetown in Sierra Leone. And I just put that one in there because I like saying Ouagadougou. On to the next license test then, and this one is rather tricky. It did take me a minute or two just to complete a run, and this is the first one we managed to make to the finish. So we've got some rain to contend with at the Red Bull Ring, and yeah, that of course makes it very difficult, especially because we are not on wet weather tyres, and this time that is by design, not by any fault in the game, I believe. So we only have to contend with the 2 left-handers really, so find this very slight right-hander on the exit, and that is it. So not a lot to get right, but at the same time it is very much on the limit, which is quite hard to find in these conditions. We get silver though at the first time of asking in terms of when we cross the line, so we are looking good, and this one shouldn't be too difficult. So flash forward a few minutes later, and this is now our gold run, and you can see even from the start it is quite tricky, and we lost a little bit there to the Ghost, but anyway, we run in probably a little bit deep into the first corner, but honestly I don't even know if the line matters too much in these conditions because it is just that horrendous. That is the optimal time Ghost, by the way, not my own, just to say that one. But anyway, we actually get a decent run on the exit as we run up towards the line, and this one will just about be good enough, and it's a 39.258, so just under half a tenth clear of the gold time. Alrighty then, on to International B7, and this time we have a double whammy of difficulty. We're driving a Porsche, which is hard enough, but we also have to drive it at the Nürburgring and deal with the second carousel, so that's unfortunate. That is going to make this one rather tricky, but we'll do our best and see how this one goes. To get gold, we need to finish this couple of corners in 28 seconds flat, so we'll see what we can do as we head onto the straight and across the line to 29.396, so we need to gain about 1.4 seconds to get gold. And it took me about 25 minutes to get gold on this license test, but eventually, after much frustration, it did happen for us, and we didn't get the greatest start to the run through the banking there, but through this right-hander carrying good speed into it, and you really have to be on the limit there, and there is absolutely no margin for error, because if you touch that grass, you are gone. But anyway, we just get a slightly better run onto the straight than our ghosty friend there, and we get a 27.958, and that gets us gold by a very small margin, less than half a tenth once again. So yeah, the gold times are quite tricky in International B, and that has me quite concerned for International A, I'm going to be honest, but we'll see if we can do them. I really hope we can, because we've had a very good gold streak on this game so far, and I hope we don't lose it anytime soon. Super License is another story as well. I don't have high hopes we'll retain gold in for all of those, but anyway, yeah, let's move on to the next test. So for International B8, we need to contend with the quadruple apex right-hander at Dragon Trail, the circuit that gave us so much trouble in that circuit experience. That was a painful time as well. But anyway, in this one so far, we've gotten through that corner okay. Definitely could have carried more speed through the last part of it. But to set a benchmark, we do a 20.609 and we get bronze, so we do need to improve by quite a bit. And improve we eventually will after a few minutes of trying. This one wasn't all that difficult. It is more or less just one corner with a bit of a weird line you take through it, so yeah, as long as your car ends up in the right place on the exit, which to be fair it's quite hard to predict given how long the corner is, but once you get that right, it's pretty easy, and we did 19.96 and get gold. So now on to the next test. We have another BMW, and we are at the Alsace test course, and this one we have to learn to deal with elevations, so I'm curious to see what is around this corner, and oh my lord, we're driving off the edge of the world. What is going on here? What a drop off, that is insane. Why isn't that on the regular village circuit? That is awesome. But anyway, we cross the line and do a 19.172, so we need to gain a whole chunk of time to get gold. So yeah, we move on, and this was actually not a very difficult one at all. In fact, I would say this is probably the easiest test in International B so far in terms of how long it took me to get gold. This literally only took a few tries. But anyway, we just take a late apex here, use the downhill slope to gain us as much speed as we possibly can towards the line, and we cross the line and get gold by just over half a tenth, so a fairly convincing one there. And I'm curious to see what this drop-off looks like on the replay camera, because from onboard it looks insane, so we'll have a good view of it in a moment, I hope. I imagine so anyway, as we head through the right hand. That looks a lot more open on camera, and there it is. That is a steep hill, Coming at that from the other direction, I imagine would look quite intimidating. But anyway, we now go on to the final test. International B10 applying the racing line. We're at Trial Mountain and we're in an R32 GTR, so I imagine this one should be pretty easy. A car I love, a track I love, so yeah, this should all go well, I would imagine. But unfortunately, things are not always as they seem, and this one turned out to be incredibly difficult for a very, very stupid reason, which is that this car is just too good. I've gotten used to driving things like that horrible Porsche at the Nürburgring, and that thing just understeered so badly. You had to give it about 10 years notice before you turn into the corner, and even then you might still go wide. It just did not turn, whereas this car, you turn and it actually goes in the direction you want it to. And yeah, I'm not used to that after some of the cars I've been driving in the license tests recently. They're just not confidence inspiring, but you can see on this run we did eventually make it to the finish, but it did take a number of attempts just to make it there without hitting the inside walls of any corners. That was the issue. It wasn't running wide. Never did I run wide in this challenge, but to get gold actually took probably about 45 minutes. And once again, most of those mistakes I was making in that time were hitting the inside walls of corners. So it was incredibly frustrating because they're just not the types of mistakes you would expect to make. But anyway, we did eventually get gold, and the gold run is the one you are seeing at the moment. And yeah, you can see it's just, the car is just very responsive, I guess, and it's not as if it slides, it doesn't oversteer at all. It's just a really good car, and yeah, that just caught me off guard completely, it seems, and it took me a good 45 minutes to get used to it. So yeah, that was a bit of a weird one, but anyway, we do eventually cross the line to set a gold time, so 41.827, and we got gold by almost 2/10, and that is it. The International B license is now ours. Whew, that was an experience, that one. That was a whole roller coaster. Some coming more easily than others, some very difficult for some silly reasons, both this one and the rally one, but nonetheless we pushed through and eventually got there. And yeah, looking back on this now, it's kind of crazy. Obviously the comfort soft tire glitch for the rally one, that was fixed a long time ago. Now this video was recorded ages ago, but anyway, yeah, I spent a lot of time on this clearly, but anyway, that's what Gran Turismo license tests are about, doing the same thing over and over and hoping you eventually get gold. But anyway, there it is, a few credits for our troubles there, and of course the most important thing, the International B license itself, and there it is. So we also get some prize cars for our trouble, so let's hope after all this we actually get something good. We get the Toyota GR Supra race car from 2019, so that ain't bad. That's a pretty decent prize, and I shall await the prize for gold, because I imagine that will be even better. But yeah, that one is for just receiving the International B license, or getting, you know, at least bronze in all of the individual tests. That car is worth 350,000 credits, and they go into our collector score. Doesn't level us up just yet, so we'll see what the other car is. And you got to be kidding me. Seriously, of all the cars, you give me that one. Alright, well, on that note, yeah, let's bring this video to an end. It does bring our collector score up by another 230, Still doesn't level us up though. Before we finish off, there's a couple of other little bits and pieces that we can run through though, like a couple more roulette tickets that we have earned through the daily marathons. So we spin the first one and we get some credits. How many do we get for this one? 10,000 credits. So yeah, let's see what we get for the other one. 4-star roulette ticket this one, so I imagine we could get something worth a little more as we spin this one off, and we'll see what we get. We have a car in the background there that I am interested in, but it looks like we're going to get a bigger pile of money, and we get 30,000 credits. Alright, and one final thing before we finish this one off. As I went back to take a thumbnail photo from the rally test, I decided to have one last try at the test to see if I can improve on that gold time I got earlier on, because I wasn't completely happy with that run. I know there is more time in it, so I decided let's have another crack at it and see what we can do. And I needed to do another run anyway to actually have a replay to take the screenshot from. So yeah, kind of did them both in one, and literally on the first attempt of going back to it I managed to improve anyway. So yeah, it really didn't take long, and I'm sure there is much more time in it if I stuck with it for another few days, but I'm not going to do that. So towards the line then, we crossed the line into 34.417, so yeah, another chunk of time, a tenth and a half almost over what we did before, so big improvement there. But anyway, that is going to bring this one to an end now, so I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. In the next episode, we are going to be tackling the International A license, so looking forward to that one. It's going to be even harder, I am sure, but hey, that is what we are here for. License tests are not meant to be easy. But like I was saying, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is all very much appreciated. Other than that, I will see you next time. Goodbye.